Hello, Aries. If you're hearing these words right now, chances are it's not by accident, because something unusual, something deeply different, is about to unfold, and not just anywhere, but right inside the home you live in. It's not a coincidence. It's not some random event. It's a powerful signal from the universe, meant to stir the quietest corners of your soul. And here's the beautiful part. It won't begin with anything dramatic. It'll start small, a subtle shift, a detail you'd normally overlook. A moment that feels ordinary, but isn't, because that moment might be the very first step, leading you closer to a kind of abundance you've never touched before. So the question is, will you be quiet enough, clear enough to notice the signal when it comes? Let's begin, right at the threshold, where an unfamiliar energy starts to move through your space, and everything you thought was steady begins to change. Sometimes the biggest changes in life don't start with thunder or a door slamming shut. They begin with tiny details. A strange silence in the house you return to each day, a flickering light, a call that ends mid-sentence, or simply the feeling something is shifting, even though no one speaks it out loud. Aries, maybe you are living in your own house, yet it no longer feels like a place to breathe deeply, truly let go, as if the air has changed its scent, as though a new energy has stepped inside. Without you opening any door, it doesn't ask permission, it doesn't knock, it just seeps in quietly, like a thin mist slipping through a crack at dawn. It might come from a friend you never expected to return, a message that makes your heart drop, or a strange dream that keeps repeating as if your soul is signaling something you aren't yet ready to see with your eyes. What do you feel when the familiar becomes strange? When a home once safe suddenly holds more questions than answers? When you wake in the morning and sense, this room knows something you do not? In astrology, a house is more than shelter for your body. It is your roots, your safety, all the things you believed would always be there. So when a foreign energy enters the house, perhaps the universe is stirring those roots, asking you to reevaluate what truly still belongs to you. Not every disturbance is a loss. Not every upheaval signals a fracture. Sometimes it is the gentlest way the universe uses to awaken you from old habits, from patterns that no longer serve you, from spaces you thought safe, but have grown too tight as your soul expands day by day. Aries is the sign of action, of movement, of stepping forward. And if you stay too long in your comfort zone, the universe will arrange, in its own delicate way, a nudge out, even if just one small step. So if lately you felt something off in the house, an unnecessary argument, something breaking unexpectedly, a shift in the look in someone's eyes, don't rush to fear. Sit down, breathe in deeply, and softly ask yourself, what is being transformed here? What no longer belongs? Because every disturbance of energy, especially in the home you live in, is an invitation to a deeper journey. The journey of seeing what you have been holding inside. The journey of cleansing space outside and within. The journey of preparing for something very different, approaching quietly. You are not under attack, Aries. You are being awakened. And if you listen more carefully among the turmoil, among the rising emotions, you will realize this is not an accident. It is a signal, a call from destiny. Because only when what's old breaks apart can light find its way in. And when that light passes through your home's doorway, it does not arrive empty-handed. It carries a gift, something that will astonish you, something that might change the whole course of your life from this point forward. Not all abnormalities are to be feared. Sometimes the strange is the most sacred thing approaching. And then you will see, among the chaos that seemed random, a secret order is slowly unfolding. A soul blueprint you agreed to before you walked this life. If you feel out of control, it's because the universe is gently removing what no longer fits. If you feel the air shifting, it's because new energy is flowing in to change the old rhythm. And if you feel fear, trust that fear is only a thin smoke hiding the gift waiting just beyond the door. Every disturbance carries an invitation. Return inward, sit with your heart, ask it softly. What is trying to be born from this change? Because sometimes, Aries, strange wind through the threshold is enough to shift a destiny. A small incident is enough to awaken parts of you forgotten. And a new flame, even if lit by a matchstick, can warm an entire winter inside you. One day you will understand. All the chaos in your life did not come to make you lose, but to show you what remains. And when you grasp that, that is when you begin to touch the next door, where the universe stops testing you and begins gifting you. Every sacred gift comes with a test, and that test is coming closer than you think. Not every storm gives warning. Not always is there a bell tolled before you enter a season of trial. Sometimes everything stays calm like a Sunday afternoon. Then in a blink, your world shifts. Aries, your feet are used to moving forward. You are someone of action, of swift reaction, of stepping boldly without hesitation. But there comes a moment when what you cannot control is exactly what draws you closer to your soul's true mission. A message arrives in the dead of night. A door swings open without warning. Someone returns in a moment you least expected, or a call seemingly harmless. Yet it reroutes your week, perhaps even your year. These events don't happen to break you. Rather, they open a new layer of awareness, forcing you to ask, will I react by old instinct or respond with the strength I have grown through my seasons of brokenness? This is no accident. This is a trial delicately arranged by a hand larger than all you once believed. Some may call it the universe, others fate, and some, like me, believe it is God knocking at your soul through a situation you cannot ignore. We often pray for blessings, for peace, for wealth, for love, for light, but seldom are we ready for how those prayers are answered. Because sometimes light does not arrive in melody. It comes in the cracking of something you thought impossible to break. Because sometimes God's answer is not a soothing miracle. It is a jolt, forcing you to stop, forcing you to gaze deep into what you have always avoided. You might quietly ask, why me? Why now? And if you are still enough to listen, perhaps your soul will whisper back, because you are ready. It is time to step into a new dawn, even if your journey begins in darkness. Someone you know might reveal their true self precisely when you need help most. A plan you trusted shatters in an instant. A job door you thought closed slams shut for no reason. Or maybe a deep intuition urges you to walk away from something you held too long. How will you respond? With anger, upheaval, blame? Or will you lay your hand over your heart and softly ask, what is this lesson here? Am I being tested to become a better version of myself? I have witnessed many strong souls fall at the first test, not because they were weak, but because they mistook the wave for the end. Instead of knowing it was the prelude to rebirth. You cannot avoid every shock in life, but you can learn to turn fear into guiding light. You can learn to respond not with screams, but with the powerful silence of a soul that has walked through darkness many times. If right now you are caught in something unexpected, an unannounced challenge, a loss you had no time to brace for, please don't think you are being punished. You are being called back to yourself, called to honesty, called to endurance, called to faith, not faith in circumstances, but faith in the light God placed in you from the moment you were born. No trial is random. No shattered moment is wasted. Aries, you were born a warrior to walk through fire. And this time that fire does not burn, but lights up the hidden places in you you have been afraid to see. Trust me, you are not alone in this unrest. And even if the path is unclear, remember, God still works in silence. He does not need you to understand everything now. He only needs you not to fall. At the moment you are about to receive your greatest gift. And you know, when your soul holds peace in the midst of the storm, that is when you become more magnetic than ever before. That is when blessings begin to find you without you chasing them. Many believe strength is in controlling everything, but I believe true strength is knowing when to surrender what cannot be changed, while keeping faith that everything will fall into its rightful place. Because sometimes the moment you accept sitting in the chaos and doing nothing at all is when you allow God to do the greatest work in your life, and when you become still enough to listen, deep enough to understand. You'll see, every trial carries a reward, and the greatest reward is not money or status, but a version of you more rooted, more peaceful, more powerful than ever. That is what your soul has been praying for all along. Often, just when we believe everything is falling apart, miracles quietly slip in, and you would never guess. The gift comes from the very chaos you once feared, a gift that needs no fanfare, a change that requires no announcement, but large enough to redirect the course of your destiny. It's strange, because sometimes what we believe is the end turns out to be the first door into a brand new chapter. Aries, if you've just gone through a loss, a financial collapse, a job door slammed shut, a project in which you poured all your faith only to see it stall midway, then put fear down for a moment and look closer at those ruins, because inside them, something is quietly glowing, a small light. But if you are patient and you hold faith, you'll see it is the light of fortune. Fortune does not always arrive in dazzling form. We don't always open doors in a suit and get greeted with applause. Sometimes fortune walks into your life with bruised feet, through a trial, through confusion, through loss that seems impossible to move past. But in the place you thought nothing could be saved, something new is being planted in silence. Maybe it's money you didn't expect. A payment once delayed, now suddenly arriving. A contract once rejected, now offered back to you with better value. Someone who once said no, now sees your true worth and extends the hand. But do you know what's most meaningful here? It isn't the number, not the dollar amount, not the material value you can hold. What changes you is the feeling that at last, what you built quietly has been seen, has been acknowledged, returned to you in a just timely, sacred way. We live in a world that measures everything by speed and result. What do you do? How much do you earn? What achievements can you show? But who measures your perseverance when no one sees? Who knows the nights you stayed awake to keep a promise to yourself? Who notices how many shortcuts you refuse just to stay true? Then, when you almost give up, the universe reaches quietly, places something in your heart, an opportunity, a reward, like an echo saying, "You did not waste your faith." I don't believe in blind luck. I believe in the resonance between right actions, choices made from integrity, and the moment God allows something good to find you. Luck does not come from counting how many prayers you've sent. It comes from how you lived in the leaves of darkness when you thought there was nothing left to trust. And so, the gift you are about to receive, whether in money, opportunity, or recognition, will not arrive as a reward for perfection, but as confirmation of your steadfastness, on days when nobody saw you. Aries, I want you to remember this. Money is not sacred, but the journey you walk to receive it that touches the soul. You can earn in many ways, but when it comes as a reward for honesty, for silent effort, for refusing to give up, every dollar carries light, and that light spreads not only in your bank account, but through your eyes, in how you walk, in how you show up for life. Let this reward remind you, you are deserving, not because you are luckier than others, but because you never betrayed yourself. In times you wanted to just let go, let this moment whisper to you, the universe is watching, God is listening, even when you feel abandoned, even when you believe you are invisible. And let this moment, when recognition or abundance finds its way to you, be the moment you know everything happening has purpose bigger than living better. It is to understand more deeply who you are. If someone ever made you feel not enough, if the world ever made you doubt yourself, then today's reward is the universe and God telling you, you have always been whole, you just didn't have the moment to truly see that yet. And when you breathe in gratitude, when you lift the gift life places in your hands, do more than celebrating just your joy. Remember the road you traveled. Share that inspiration. Be the living proof that perseverance is never wasted. Then when you barely smile because fortune finally turned to you, when you feel the sky has cleared, a door you thought old may open again. A familiar face might emerge carrying something you once feared to face again. And this time, you will have to decide, face it or walk away again. Because some things cannot follow you to the next chapter if you have not yet looked them in the eyes one final time. There's an unwritten law, a quiet current that moves beneath the surface of life. You can't see it, but it's always there, steady, silent, and more precise than any human justice. It's the law of karma. Aries, maybe you've known what it feels like to be betrayed, to be stabbed in the back by the one you trusted most, to be deceived, manipulated, hurt, so subtly that you couldn't even name the pain when it first happened. And when the storm passed, they vanished. You were left behind with 1,000 unanswered questions. Why? Why me? What did I do wrong? You forgave, or at least you tried. You moved forward, even with the holes still open in your heart. But life has its own way of rewriting unfinished lines. And this week, or sometime very soon, you may witness a return, not a peaceful one, a reckoning. The one who hurt you in love, at work, or in someone close is coming back, not to rebuild, but to return the truth, to return fairness, to return the energy they took in silence. And the most powerful part, you don't have to do anything because the wheel of karma is turning. right on time, and this time you're not the one left broken. You're not the one picking up pieces. You're not the one carrying a wound no one else could see. You've changed, not because you're stronger than them, but because you've become stronger than who you were back then. Maybe you'll hear an apology, a confession, or witness a moment they can no longer hide behind. The truth always rises, and when it does, you'll understand something deeply. Not everyone who hurt you gets to win. Your silence, your kindness, your endurance in solitude was seen, not by human eyes, but by the eyes of heaven, because God does not reward loud revenge. He honors the quiet strength of those who held back, even when no one would have blamed them for striking back. And now you have a choice, to forgive or to retaliate. You could choose anger, and that would be understandable. That's human. But if you pause just for one breath, you may realize this. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean agreeing with what they did. It means you hand back the weight to where it belongs. You don't need to carry one more stone in your heart. You've carried enough. It's time to let it drop. And you know what? Forgiveness is never for them. It's a mercy for you, because when you forgive, you become free. You walk through the door that resentment tried to keep shut. You step out of the memory that pain locked you inside. And on the other side of that door is light, is peace, is a life where you're no longer tied to someone else's mistake. I know forgiveness isn't easy, especially for Aries. You love fully. You fight fiercely for what's right. You don't give up and you don't forget. You put your whole heart on the table, and when it's crushed, you wear that scar like a warrior, healing in the dark. But if you can, try to forgive, not for them, for you, because you deserve to feel light again. You deserve to move forward without that name, that moment, that night holding you back. When the truth comes out, don't ask why it didn't come sooner. It arrived when you were finally strong enough to stand in its light without being swallowed by the shadows again. God doesn't always answer immediately. He waits until you've grown enough to receive the truth, not with rage, but with grace. There will come a moment when you look at the one who once broke you and you no longer shake. You'll feel gratitude, because without that fall, you wouldn't have learned how to rise, taller, stronger, brighter. And in that moment, when you walk away lightly, leaving the past like a photo left in the drawer, you'll feel something opening in your chest. No more bitterness, just quiet space, and that space is where something sacred is drawing near, softly, gently, like grace itself. Not every love begins with a glance, and not all love needs words to reach the heart. Some connections are quiet, silent, as if one soul already knew the other, long before their bodies ever knew how to say each other's names. Aries, you love deeply. Even if on the outside you're bold, fiery, sometimes hard to read, inside you lives a loyal, pure, burning heart. You don't love halfway. You love as if you're handing over a piece of your soul, and because of that, you're the one who gets hurt the most. Not because you're weak, but because you love with the kind of honesty that never pretends. So maybe over the years, you've closed off parts of your heart, just a little, but enough to keep anyone new from getting too close. Maybe you've told yourself, I'm fine on my own. There's no one out there who's truly sincere, or worse. Maybe I wasn't made to love or to be loved for real. But love, real love, doesn't come when you chase it. It arrives when you come home to yourself. And I believe, right now as you sit here listening to these words, there's another heart, beating on the same frequency as yours. Somewhere, a soul thinking of you, without knowing why, a pair of eyes that once passed by you. But back then, you were too busy carrying sadness to notice. Love is getting closer, Aries. Not the kind that burns fast and dies just as quickly. Not the emotional games you've seen too many times before, but a real connection, quiet but deep. One that knows how to heal the scars you thought had already faded. It might come from someone you once knew, someone familiar but now different, more grown, wiser, and this time they're not here to take, they're here to give. Or it might be someone brand new, but your soul, it'll recognize them, even before your heart knows what's happening. You might start dreaming of them, faces you can't quite see, but dreams full of peace. You might catch someone's eyes again and again and ask yourself, why this person? You might hear an old song and feel a wave of something you don't even have a name for yet. That's not random. That's alignment. That's the universe ringing a soft bell, just to say it's almost time. True love doesn't rush. It doesn't leave you anxious. It doesn't make you guess or shrink yourself just to fit someone else's needs. True love makes you feel more peaceful, not more confused. And Aries, you're walking straight toward it. I believe every soul has its own frequency. And when your heart starts vibrating in sync with that soul's rhythm, the one meant for you will feel it. No shouting, no pretending, just truth. So if you're wondering, do I still deserve love? Let me tell you this, you don't just deserve love, you are already being loved in this very moment by a soul that's on its way to you. But Aries, this kind of love needs space, a clear heart, a mind that's ready to forgive the past, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve a new beginning. Start by opening the door. No rush to let someone in, just open. Let hope find its way back in. Set down the armor you no longer need, and when the light pours in, it will bring with it a hand meant only for you. A hand not trying to hold you down, but reaching out, to walk beside you. Someone who sees you even before you speak. Let this love in, Aries. Not because you're lonely, but because you've grown strong enough to tell real from pretend. To feel the difference between a lesson and a lifelong chapter. And if you're willing, if you can let your heart soften, you'll hear it. A gentle, soft knock at the door of your heart. A soul returning, not loud, not fast, just quietly and real. And the real ones, they know how to stay. Love is near, Aries, but not everyone can hold on to it. To love fully again, you must be willing to walk away from whatever once made you afraid to love at all. No space can hold light if it's never been cleared. Aries, you've walked through shocks, through things breaking apart, through moments that spun your destiny off course. You've been hurt enough to know what's worth keeping and what's time to release. But between knowing and doing, there's always a very human gap. Maybe you're ready to welcome new love, a new opportunity, a new door into abundance, but somewhere deep in your heart, something still holding on, an unfinished promise, a face that still visits your dreams, a quiet hope whispering maybe they'll change, or worse, a part of you that still doubts whether you're worthy of something better. Wealth doesn't start with numbers in a bank account. It starts with the space inside you that's open enough to receive. Because you can't receive more if your hands are still holding tight to something old, something cracked, something no longer in harmony with your soul. The universe may have already prepared a new door, but you must be the one to leave the old room. No one's going to push you out. No one's coming to rescue you from that prison. Only you, with love for yourself, can set down the suitcase full of old memories and take a step forward. Aries, I know you can survive anything, but let me ask you this. Do you really need to carry it all? There are people who don't need to stay in your life anymore. They came to teach you a lesson, not to walk with you to the very end. There are feelings you don't need to hold on to, the anger you've never spoken, the disappointment hiding behind a smile, the loneliness you've ignored by keeping yourself busy. All of it is taking up space, and while it's still there, there's not much room left for light to enter. I've met souls full of goodness, full of talent, full of light, and yet still struggling, not because they weren't worthy, but because they were overflowing with fear of abandonment, limiting beliefs, and old stories on loop inside their minds. I've seen people who loved deeply, honestly, but still couldn't hold on to love, not because they weren't enough, but because their heart was too busy trying to forget someone, forgive something, or wondering why they were never chosen. Spiritual clearing isn't a ritual. It's the highest act of self-love. It says, I deserve something new. It chooses, I no longer want to live in the same old story. It dares, I know I can live with joy even without holding on to what once hurt me. You can't carry both light and shadow. You have to choose, not because the universe forces you, but because your soul has grown enough to know what truly makes you feel alive and free. You might need to cry. You might write a letter you'll never send. You might need a few nights of silence, where you don't reply to that old message, where you don't silence the voice inside, begging you to finally let it go. But this is the necessary journey, because before the miracle arrives, you'll need to do what so few dare to do. Say goodbye to what still has a grip on your softness. Wealth doesn't ask you to become someone else. It only asks you to return to who you were. Before the hurt, before the shrinking, before you tried to become small just to fit into someone else's world. Picture your inner space as a small home. If you invite something new, money, love, recognition, you'd probably clean the table, sweep the floor, change the lighting so everything feels warm and ready. So what about your soul's home? When was the last time you dusted it off? Are you still keeping old pictures on the walls? Ones where the person looking back at you is the one who caused you pain? Are there drawers full of promises never kept? Memories still bleeding, dreams that have turned colorless from time? Set them down. Gently, no rush, just honesty. Just choose yourself, not for anyone else, but because it's time to live a lighter life. If you knew for certain that what's coming is better than everything behind you, would you let go of what's been holding you back? I think you would, because you're still here, because you're listening, because you've come far enough to know true fullness doesn't come from what you hold, it comes from the peace you feel when you finally let it go. And once your heart is wide enough, once your energy is clear enough, you'll see something strange is entering, soft as a scent, gentle as the morning sun, and rich as if it's been waiting for you for a very long time. Not everything beautiful begins with a brand new start. Sometimes the miracle happens right where you once fell apart, right in the place you swore you'd never return to. That room where you once buried your face in your hands and whispered, "I can't take this anymore." Aries, you've traveled through many layers of yourself, from doubt to awakening, from loss to openness, from chaos to finally seeing the light within you again. And now, as you stand more ready than ever, the universe, in all its quiet precision, begins rearranging the pieces around you. Not loud, not flashy, but powerful enough to redirect your entire path. You don't need to start over somewhere far away. You don't need to run, cut ties, move cities, or escape yourself. The deepest transformation always begins within, and it often unfolds right in the middle of everything familiar. A phone call you didn't expect, an email out of the blue, a name from the past reaching out with a message that could shift your finances, your career, or your worth in ways you once thought were out of reach. And the most unexpected part, all of it, is happening right where you are, in the very house you're living in. You don't need to go searching. What's meant for you is already on its way, moving toward you. Maybe it's an old project you once set aside, a dream that just woke up again, an idea you finally dared to write down, and just days later, a hand reaches out and says, "I believe in you." Not everyone sees the light in places that were once full of shadows. But you, Aries, you do, because you've done the inner work. You've spent enough time clearing what didn't belong. You've faced your storms. You don't run from chaos anymore. You walk through it with a heart that's soft but unbreakable, with eyes that see clearly but judge no one, with strength that doesn't shout, but stands like stone. That's why this new door isn't opening for the old you, opening for the version of you today, the one who is calmer, wiser, more grounded. If you once dreamed of wealth like something far away, this time it won't feel like fantasy. It will arrive like morning light, steady, gentle, effortless. You'll receive something you once thought was out of reach, not because you asked long enough, but because you finally became someone who knows how to hold it. True wealth doesn't come from what you have. It comes from becoming someone who no longer drops their blessings because of the shadows they still carry inside. Others might look at you and say, "You're lucky," but you and I both know this isn't luck. This is the reward for your journey, the journey where you didn't walk away even when you had nothing left to hold on to, the journey where you chose to keep going, even when you didn't know what was ahead. You were patient. You were honest with yourself. You believed without needing proof. And now, your reward is freedom. Freedom from what no longer fits. Freedom to receive without needing to prove your worth. So watch the coming days carefully. Something small could shift everything. A quiet opportunity may appear, but only if you're still enough to see it, because magic doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes like wind. You don't see it, but you'll feel it in your whole body. Not all chaos is loss. Sometimes things have to break for light to find its way in. And if you're sitting there now, quietly listening to these words, I want you to know this. You've done so well. You've walked a path no one saw. You've healed parts of yourself others left behind. You chose light even when darkness wrapped around you. And today I celebrate you because you didn't give up. Thank you, Aries, for listening with your whole heart. Thank you for being brave enough to face yourself, to keep going, to open your heart to something better. May you soon hold the blessing that's on its way with clean hands, a steady heart, and a soul fully ready to receive.